we are continuing on. And like I said, with Uranus, if you're like in your yard and so on, and this whole intelligence thingy is getting in your way, you're not going to treat people as distinguished gentlemen anymore. Okay? That includes your president, your head of state, your whatnot. Um, but there's another thing. Right now, Uranus is, uh, let's say, Saturn is turning direct and is slowly applying to sextile Uranus. And when Uranus, wherever Uranus is at, this sextile of Uranus and Saturn is liberation from restrictions. So Uranus in Taurus is kind of like our pleasure, our relationships, our orgasms as well. So Uranus better per se, for example, I've had this, I have Dutch, and before the Ajax fiasco tried, there was a lot of nudges to, maybe go to Netherlands, maybe this, maybe that. And I'm like, oh, well, these are the things that I need in order to relax and enjoy. Here are a couple of restrictions that I need lifted. Okay. So I obviously can't book a hotel if I'm worried about cameras up there. And I definitely, can't, just relax and meet people if I'm worried about them being, lover girls or lover boys. And I definitely can't, flex out when I know the certain limitations of things, and there's just kind of like, okay, what do I need to relax and enjoy? So I began with the example of the backyard, because we are going out to our lawns, okay, going out to the yard, going out, taking a bathtub, just learning about it. And then it's like, oh, there's a couple of restrictions that need to be offed, okay, that need to be removed, okay. This whole surveillance things, I'm not going to shut. And this is very important with Uranus. When Uranus crosses you, you're not going to shut yourself down. You just need a restriction removed, okay. So so for example, it's like Uranus, if you're in the lawn and you're like, I don't know, naked, bathing naked in the sun, okay, you don't want to have to cover your body, okay. So what you're gonna do about it, especially with Beta per se, okay, you make a little talisman and say, well, whatever uses that image, that thing, that whatnot, okay, they get double time the dumb fuckery back to sender. Because here is where you want to have that restriction removed. You don't want to put on clothes, you want to take off surveillance, okay? And now people begin to look at the sky and kind of like, hey, what's that painting technique that they did with the clouds today? Toxic gases, okay? Uranus is a gas giant. As Saturn is applying to sextile Uranus, those restrictions that we want removed, we actually can remove them. But this is also a good balance between restriction and karma, and liberation, and rebellion. Okay, if the Uranus square Saturn was a crisis moment, I was trying to tend to my teeth at that time, and there was just really weird things going on. Okay. While as Saturn is sextiling, we may find, more holistic or more unusual way to do the same thing. So it's like, hey, those are the restrictions, and it's like, of course. And for example, as Saturn was applying to sextile Uranus, I actually did tend to my teeth, And the very nice dentist there told me, okay, now I'm putting fluoride in your mouth. I'm like, no, you don't. And that's it. And I had to express myself. Okay. So there are all these weird holistic ways. And by the way, before I ordered 2 toothpastas that are completely natural, then the thing exploded with the housing situation and the I don't know what human trafficking they wanted to do there, but that's a restriction I need really. Like satanic ritual abuse and human trafficking is a restriction I need removed from the entire country to relax and chill in my backyard. Okay? And so this is the beauty about Saturn coming to the part of the synodic cycle with Uranus, where it's the sextile. Uranus is like, hey, to relax and enjoy, I need those restrictions removed. Or with Uranus in Gemini, that may be, Uranus is technology, or it's like, hey, if you want me to have a digital footprint whenever I enter my bank, then you're gonna have to provide me with the phone and stuff like that. Or okay, it's kind of like, hey, or hey, I need that, or your bank is wanting to have a meeting with you. Okay, I why do I have to have a meeting with my money? So Uranus in Gemini would be like, hey, I need to have that restriction removed because the banking system is changing. And people are like, no, I don't want to have a meeting with the bank. It's like, oh, you can, with your fingerprint, you can put it as like, no, but the screen is broken because Saturn is going to be in Aries. Oh, but the screen of my cell phone breaks every now and then, and it's going to be. I can't, like, it doesn't show my face. I remember a satire that someone did, and he was trying to get into his sneezing face because as he was taking a picture of himself, of his face to kind of like open his phone as identity, he was sneezing. So he was trying to imitate this face. That's a genuine satire that I heard in Israel about these things. So this is what I love about the sextile. Uranus is just like, I need to remove, I need to liberate myself from this restriction, and Saturn is going to accommodate. It's not going to be a square where, your dentist is kind of like harming your gums, or that one is like, that's the only dentist that you have, and you're just like, fuck it, I'm not going to do that. Or you need to pay in particular order to the HMO, because if you pay every month because you don't want the bank's dumb fuckery, that they take it off at the wrong date and hurt your credit score, then you don't get coverage for your teeth, and you're like, fuck it, I'm not paying the HMO anymore. And then you find out that you escaped the person that wanted to put fluoride in your teeth, hurt your gums, so it will get into your heart, rip you off your money and your wisdom teeth as well, give you all the wrong types of treatments and toxins, and loaning your entire assets for it. So that was, I know a person that had an astrology reading, and at the same time had tried to appoint a meeting with a dentist, and the meeting with the dentist, like, he really tried, but it didn't work, and not just me, okay, and then something was going. The square was squaring, okay. For example, when I was homeless during that square, and I was offered, I remembered all of my traumas from workplaces and the fact that, yes, I had a problem with, before I came to study, I had a problem with my feet. And right now I can record, but if I have to like talk to people, I get weird things with my speech, like whatnot. Um, and I get a sore throat and I get allergies, like really weird stuff that is all genuine. And the woman that tried to help me tried to raise her own funds to go to Israel back to the dentist that she trusted, and she had to have a surgery, and she was afraid, and she was 60 years old with a successful business. And I'm like, if I listen to her advice, I'm going to be stepping up at age 60, trying to raise funds to go to the dentist. Not really sure how will I make it. So obviously she's very caring about me, and obviously I must not listen to her. And then there's this Saturn now applying to the sextile. So whatever restriction we want removed, we might get it removed, or we might get an accommodation that is actually accommodating. Okay? When the actual sextile perfects, then Uranus will already be in Gemini. And this is where that would be a great time to complete the skill you started to learn when Saturn conjuncted Uranus. Because this is a closing square. Okay? Uranus in Gemini, Gemini rules skills, especially what something you do with your hands and so on. And Saturn in Aries is going to give you, kind of like a good restriction that allows you to direct your energy and learn from that skill. Now, to do the Saturn Uranus, I would need to do a live because I need to show you the screen and I need to see it myself. Saturn takes 28 years to surround the zodiac. So when was Saturn Uranus squaring? I think it was, they were squaring, they were conjuncting in Sagittarius, kind of like around my midheaven. And the Saturn Uranus conjunction, um, this is a time in your life, or if you were alive, this is a time where you either begin something to do with a worldview, belief. You may have even gotten into astrology at that time. I think that would be the late 80s. Okay, the late 80s would have that Saturn Uranus conjunction. And so if you carry that timestamp, you are very likely developing your own method of both investment and how you do business. You may have religious business. I know Caitlin Kopuk has this, and she made Sphere and Sand, which is completely renovating both business models and her own product, which was completely unique, turning talismans into your body butter. And now you're like every little product with great care and precision, but also great innovation. So that I'm really excited about this generation of people. Okay, they don't have the best of synastries with me. Pluto's probably opposing my sun and stuff, which is shit fucking annoying. But But what I'm really excited about that is that those people are creating a new and innovative type of science, investment, the way to invest, and so on and so forth. I have 30 degrees between Saturn and my Uranus, but this is a closing, okay? So like Saturn is coming to close into the conjunction. So I'm a lot in a cycle of completion when it comes to that. Um, and Saturn is the same sign of my Ketu, so, and rules over Jupiter that rules that Uranus. So, sorry, Uranus is the same sign of my Ketu. Yes. So, the closing Uranus sextile has some sort of completion to those fields and sciences. Okay. So the last conjunction we had was in Sag, and now there is the um, pretty much the closing square of Saturn, the closing sextile of Saturn. Okay. Um, so we're going to be having accommodation. Let's say if take Caitlin's endeavor, so astrological magic and the business of astrology. Okay, we're changing the Masons, so that would have to be accommodating. And now we will have more of the accommodation. Hey, let's use that stuff to abolish satanic ritual abuse, to change the Masonry to be inclusive of women, not just inclusive, but balance the yin and yang. Um, and all these things, okay, to change the work, if the business has a particular line of work that allows people to have good living and labor condition, okay, then now we can set that in stone, or now we can complete that, or now we have a business model for astrological talisman business. And all these people say, well, I just needed this restriction removed. I just needed this restriction removed. Now is the time where Saturn is accommodating. And Uranus thus can be more accommodating for Saturn, for example. I have no problem with the Masons if they take out satanic ritual abuse, grapes, rapes, MK Ultra, and trying to interfere and invert, the anything beautiful that's being created. Then I have no problem with the Masons, right? And that is also the good time in history to do that, so that they won't be persecuted. So that's a great time where the Saturn Uranus can be very accommodating. Okay, the conjunction was on religion, on worldview, um, in Jupiter. Okay, Jupiter sign. Then it continued on, I think, a little bit to Capricorn, which is fantastic. So in Taurus, you will be removing the restriction that keep you from experiencing wealth, pleasure, comfort, joy. And in Gemini, that would be removing the restrictions around child, the way you grow children, the way, if Taurus is fertility, then children is Mercury in Gemini. Children and books, the way the literary professions and skills and trade, okay, the way that it's being done, okay, we're gonna need to remove some restrictions. For example, the ability to make a life while making a living, being a writer or being a public speaker, okay, and you don't have to sell an entire industry. There's a lot of restrictions on that. You have to sell, a book and a product and a this and a that and a body cream and a this, and come to shows and come to that and have hardly any dividends. Then you get MK Ultra in your fucking anus. Okay, I said, and that's the good case. So Pluto will, the Pluto trine perhaps it helps to excrete that. Okay. So you can make money from actually being a writer or actually being a musician. Okay. I was angry at Jaguar Wright where she said about Mariah Carey. She said you can't let whole shit get into music shit and that. And I was like, that whole shit is espionage. And stop blaming Mariah for what Tony Mottola did. Okay. So we don't have to agree about everything, but cruelty-free artistry can perhaps be with the Saturn Uranus sextile. That would be some good election, I believe, will be towards that. And I will talk about this on my channel. Of course, I expect good dividends if that's being used when I find the election. Okay, but we're supposed to be able to make good living from, being a writer or being a musician and so on. So you don't have to be a player to be a player, okay? Like you're not supposed to not be able to have a house while writing a book. And then the restriction from, like, for example, making a living is removed, then you can sit yourself down and write a book. Okay, then you can sit yourself down without being tied to contracts that are not working for you. So I definitely am looking forward to those type of initiations happening. Small businesses. Uranus is going to make small businesses even more viral. And with Saturn, it's going to be the business of the solitary person. Okay. If your business, I've already began to see as Uranus working its way through Taurus towards Gemini, there is usually you have a union for employees, then you have a union for business owners, but only if you have no employees, because there was this missing link. Okay, and I think that that's going to be booming with Uranus. You're gonna both have these like really global businesses that are all across the board, but and they're entrepreneurial and they go viral. So you're gonna have both that and the solitary person. Okay, what's going viral is the solitary person having a business. Okay, so like if I'm the solitary person, I should be able to have a business where there may be some restriction on like my sovereignty in terms of taxation that I have to pay, but other than that, I expect for that business to allow making a life while making a living. Gemini, even on a local level, they love to discuss, they love to travel, they can't be tied in the office all day. Okay, they love to do a lot of things. So we're going to be wanting to incorporate a lot of things into our businesses and at the same time be able to travel locally. And Uranus is on the word local. I've been hearing it a lot and I'm saying that, but it's also on the axis. Just like Uranus and Taurus have been releasing, using a crystal to release energy of past lovers from your sexual organs, and that's so scorpionic, right? um Uranus in Gemini, that's true. Like that, it was also, when Uranus was going from Aries to Taurus, I went out of like the Me Too weird cult MK Ultra Mossad Shabak shit to like, hey, instead of rape culture, pleasure culture, and started to work in an international business that sold like, self-pleasure awareness, tantric awareness courses, digital courses to people. Yes, it's like, hey, and it was not like, hey, let's cash in on us. Like, instead of getting stuck in what I don't not want and trying to fight a, 50 years old man, over 50 years old man, it could have been my father. Why not just go with what I do want? And spread the news. Okay, try to figure for myself. Okay, what do I do want? Okay, so Uranus going from Taurus to Gemini is kind of taking that a step further. And so Gemini is on the axis of Sagittarius. So I should be able to have a good, thriving, solitary business where I can travel the world and be free, freedom of religion. Yeah, whichever my religion is. Okay, so it's not like, yeah, people are not, there's a restriction on travel, restriction on that. I see that resolving. I see people actually traveling quite a lot because Uranus is going to be on a certain axis, and even if not, then I remember there was an interview with Thierry Boudet and Tristan Tate, um, and they talked about the fact that, hey, this multiculturalism, like, we had enough of it. I don't like. I don't want to like. I don't want to go to McDonald's everywhere I dislike. So first of all, stop asking protection from local business. Stop trafficking people, and whatnot. But I kind of think that the Uranus in Gemini will bring us again the generation where you go to a rural grocery store in Russia. I've never been there, but I remember the conversation I heard when Uranus was in Pisces, by the way, and you go to a grocery store in Russia, and you have everything. You have the food from all over the countries, all over the world. And I think we're going to be having that in exactly in those grocery stores because that's very mercurial. The trade, the supermarkets, we're going to want products from all over this. Now with the world wars, you know, we're going to want products from all over the world. And at the same time, we're going to want to travel as well. Okay, when Uranus was in my third house, I also traveled um, and did a little bit of a revolution also from there. So think about the Gemini house and the Sag house. It's an axis. So people are definitely going to travel. Some of them might travel more locally, and some of them begin to travel locally and then expand. We're going to be looking into applied sciences and philosophy of applied sciences. We're going to update our philosophy of applied sciences. I remember when I go back to my thesis and I was thinking about, the essay I made about the colonialism and the myth of psychiatry in the colonies and how that helped shaping the identity in Great Britain. And so going from there, I was like, hey, Kuhn was not correct for psychiatry, and knowing enough about physics that you don't, but psychiatry is called like sciences without telling me that this hologram damn fuckery M theory is not called like sciences. M theory, need I say more? Okay. And so I was going to my instructor, who fortunately did not sexually harass me or try to mind control me. And he was a doctor. And he said he was an MD. And he told me, listen, as an MD, when I hear the anything goes of Yerevan, I don't know how to treat a patient. So I said, let's help Danny Phil, Professor Danny Phil, to treat a patient. And my thesis turned to applied sciences. So I looked at the question of spirit and matter in the medicines, okay, both holistic and non-holistic. Okay, I remember beautiful Professor Avi Segal telling me, you return me to my years upon years, but you're gonna have to learn a lot by yourself. And I'm like, I'm all for it. And I did that. And that was the best decision I got, despite that freedom guy, not Wilders, academia. Yeah, what's the name of the guy that talks about academic freedom? Yeah, he's telling me, like, who is going to host your thesis in this department? Because it was politics and governance. I will remember your name. Don't try to make me forget that name. There's the guy and his wife that went to Britain later. The word is Niv Gordon. You don't get away with that. You can't talk about academic freedom when you were zoning out in the Me Too and shaking the dean's hand where, what happened, okay? So you can't be doing that, okay? Um, and so he was telling me, there's nobody's going to host your thesis in politics and governance. Well, lo and behold, the problem was different because I was actually tending to the scientific background for what would be MK Ultra. Because if you what I learned is just like, oh well, I have that's the scientific. He's simply saying, if consciousness must leave trace in matter, that's really all you need to know. If you count in waves, if you count in non-linear dynamic systems, then, and the fact that you can interfere in the intervals, okay, chaos theory and stuff, it's just taking me back to that journey. And then it kind of like it's looking way more like Feyerabend than it looks like Kuhn, but the good balance would be Larry Loudon. Late 1990s Larry Loudon, because there's a lot of Larry Loudon and that matters. And then you try to bridge it to people on YouTube. And then COVID happens. So applied science, and the whole issue was applied science because I was thinking about philosophy of sciences and so on. Then I meet a doctor and I'm like, okay, let's take it to applied science. He's right. And I apply it. And I learned fascinating things. And I'm so privileged to have met actual science before they took it away. The fascination, the curiosity, the genuine sheer joy of the scientific endeavor is something that I got to experience before they took it away. And that's a privilege, and I see that. I see, like a golden retriever, you tell it fetch. So when Uranus gets into Gemini and up there is Sagittarius, then this is where, the scientist, the researcher, the engineer tells it fetch. And you get me the science back. Yo, this research that will stop for cancer treatment, it's not torturous, fetch it for me. Okay, so this is a science retriever. I see Uranus in Gemini as a science retriever. So the boundaries are very fierce, but you have to remember that Uranus, as much as it likes to detach, it also likes to connect. It just connects in a different way. Um, the applied form. Okay, Uranus in Taurus has also been very applied. Uranus is applying something. Okay, you weren't just thinking about, you weren't having the idea of growing a garden. You would go there and do that. And then you would get tired of watering, and you would get this, and then suddenly something grows, and then you would get all these weird things in your nervous systems, like go back to your garden and like, oh damn, that was that. Um, and you were changing things up, and you were expanding with Jupiter, but also with Uranus, and you were contracting, and so on. So that's something that Uranus will help you apply and engineer. A lot of people, if it's in your fourth house, you will very likely be building your own house. Like, don't expect that to not happen. So a lot of restrictions have to be moved. Okay, it can't take 7 years orderly as it used to be, because you're gonna be building a couple of houses until you be building your house. The Gemini's more than one. If it's a business, you're gonna be building a couple of business until, if it's your seventh house, you might be dating around until you meet the one or the two. I don't know. Um, for fifth house, okay. So yes, Uranus can give technology, but it can also give astrology. Technology can also be astrology, or astrological talismans. More on these thoughts. Oh, the way we access our nervous system with all these movements we do with our fingers, we're gonna have a booming of that. All these mudras and stuff. People, but it's with Gemini, we're more playful around this. Developments in the science of hearing, so clairaudience. The neurology. Do you remember the Oliver Sacks books? They're gonna be, that type of stuff is going to be very, very relevant again. Um, we're going to be finding new ways to look at things. And Oliver Sacks is actually, I'm thankful to him, because at the time where I was still trying things with psychiatry, I remembered his idea about dosage. And I said, that's very weird. Why doesn't it work like that with psychiatry? I should be able to maneuver. And that later that worked a little bit that way with amphetamines, and later that worked that way with aromatherapy already, and now with astrology and with trying things that. So I got to know the nervous system at first for the prescribed weird stuff, and then Oliver Sacks kind of opened the scope to look at the system as a non-linear dynamic system, which totally renovated and radically accepted the patient in way that have truly inspired both my radical acceptance of me, um, and and in general, solving problems in this way. Pluto is going to be in Aquarius by this time, and Aquarius is a very open sign in that sense. It's dogmatic, but it's a dogma that is outside of the dogma. You can think about astrology versus cosmology without astrology, which I don't see how you can do, but okay. But beloved Avi Segal, so when he opened his international relation course, he said about science, because you have like his politics and governance is science, and he said no or yes and no, and he said, well, science it has rules, it's not chaos, which immediately struck me because I actually knew something about chaos, but I guess he was trying to bridge it to people. And it's like, well, we know that astrology is pseudoscience, but astronomy is a science. And as a person who tended to physics, I did not understand why is he being so. And why, by the way, if I went to the physics department, you would have theses and PhDs about the atom or the particles in the atom as both spiritual and spirit and matter. So there you have it. It's a lovely thing when you go around the departments. Okay, if you can ditch the masons or change them, okay, so you don't get human sacrificed or mass raped in the astral and not even understand what is going on. But we're tending to that with this, Beta per se Uranus talismans. That's going to be back to senders. So there might be a little bit less masons after that, but it's okay. And so maybe a good side effect, less government surveillance, in all things all things Uranus. But when you go around the department, so you get to see how, and then you see that the Department of Politics trying to prove itself that it is a science, while the Department of Physics is trying to explore spirituality with atoms and stuff. And then you have two knights in the garden next to physics fighting each other, and you're like, is that Mason? Is that Templars? And you don't understand what it is. It just looks very funny and nice, and you let them do to their own weird games until you find out what else do they do there. And a person that was a genius, a mathematical genius, get caught up with his boyfriend snuffing a child on camera, which is pedophilia. And then, of course, that's how they got removed, because they were told they were going to get a higher rank, and then they got exposed. So that is how that's the politics of academic research. I did not finish my master thesis after the Me Too / MK Ultra, because I did not consent to be sex espionage and assassinate people like, Peter R. de Vries and stuff. Apparently, only now I know that in retrospective, I just said no to abuse from my perspective and ditched the mind control as far as I could. So, yeah. And there's the thing, when we go with Saturn from the square to the sextile, then the rebellion can stand the test of time. What you achieve now can stand the test of time, whereas with the square, it's not that it didn't stand the test of time. It's like that is the growth, the growth part. Okay, you still struggle, but now the results that you're achieving with the sextile, they will stand the test of time, because there's a good balance between order and chaos. I expect a lot of great orgasms to be there, because order and chaos are the things that, bad balance between order and chaos is the reason why people cannot have an orgasm. They're too traditional, restrictive, structural, or they're liberated without structure, that essentially they become shocked and terrified. Yeah, you wouldn't expect that. You would think Venus and Mars and that and so on. But orgasm can be something that's of the nervous system. Uranus, Jupiter, I think, was when I discovered I had orgasms from my toes for a while. That was a very pleasant time. And then it reached the beta per se, and I could not even connect with my own body. And it's like, okay, now to have an orgasm, what do I need to liberate? The cold. Okay, let's do it. 7 on 7. So people are going to be having mindgasms, in particular when Uranus enters Gemini. And Saturn and Neptune are in Aries. Yes, the skin of the face might be mythically erotic. Let me just imagine about the time where people can have sex without worrying about their energy being siphoned to mass rape, ritual sacrifice. Okay? Make orgasms great again. Sapiosexuality is going to definitely be on the rise. Okay. As a natural sapiosexual, I find that to be delightful to have, and I just need to have a restriction removed, which is the dumb fuckery MK Ultra thing. It was like, hey, that brain and your brain connect, and then they're like, they learn that the womb is something that is going to devour them, or what else do they teach her? Actually, we had a friend, and he was Mason, and he was terrified of women. Now, every such guy, unfortunately, had been heartbroken once in his life. I've been MK Ultra by a guy, okay? So, so that's like, if I'm scared of you as a man and I don't project my dumb fuckery on you, I don't see why you should be projecting. But that, it's usually like you get heartbroken and then you join the Masons, and then they teach you that women are horrible and this and that and scary, and the guy's scared as fuck. And I'm beginning to have channeling experiences. So they're scared of these woo-woo women. And then my friend had his a sibling deceased, so that person had to drive me to the funeral, and it was an hour drive, and the guy's sitting in the car trying to have a conversation because we both Tauruses, and I told my friend even if I was Hitler, he would give me that lift, and he told his friend exactly the same thing. And you're stuck there in a conversation, and that person is shit fuck scared of everything that you are. And I'm like, how do I explain to this person that the reason that I'm not as creepy as I could be is because I'm everything that I am? So, because if I wouldn't go really spiritual and astrological and experimental after this MK Ultra thingy, I would be Hitler. They actually do that they did that to Adolf Hitler. as a daughter, as a granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor, that totally liberated me from ancestral lineage trauma. It's not just the movie The Wave. When you get that's what they do, you're like, yeah, everybody can be Hitler if that's what's done to them. And then you forgive Hitler, but you don't forgive the people who don't believe that mind control exists. That's unusual stuff. Okay. So, Uranus Saturn is that lovely time in history or herstory where we have a good balance between order and chaos. Great, great, fantastic technology can be developed. Um, this is where Saturn is not too restrictive and Uranus is not too rebellious. If you think about L'Homme Rebelle, okay, the rebellion of the young people who don't yet have the wisdom, and the rebellion of those who have the wisdom but don't have the energy to rebel. Now we have a conjoining working forces, okay? The young rebels, and because Gemini is also children and youth, so the young rebels and the older sovereigns conjoin forces.